Quoted one time because he spoke to me when I first came on. I thought he might have tried to open that. He said, you've got a nice ability to say the worst things about you. Like, I'm going to speak on it. Yeah, I'm not going to have it. You're in favor of the high school staying downtown. I am too personally, but I haven't surveyed my members. But it just seems to me that if you're going to take a $350 million statement about public education, why would we put it between university and campus? Well, and the other thing is, it says that you value education because you're sitting right in the heart of the city, rather than shuffling it off on the Tewksbury line. I think people said to me, well, Lawrence did it and all that. It just, you know, but that's me. You know, well, where was I going? Oh, to make the decision? Thanks, sir.
Michael Wojcik.
Hello, I'm Michael Wojcik. I am here to present my textile recycling program, bring everyone up to date, and to the new people who are here, inform them about the project and how we plan on going forward. But first, I'd like to thank everyone for being here, the mayor, the superintendent, and the school committee, and everyone else. So let's get into this. Right here. So a little bit about me. I am from BSA Troop, Boy Scout Troop Lowell 23 Lowell. I earned my Eagle Scout in March 4th of last year for this project. I graduated from high school June 3rd, and I plan on going into, well, I'm going into the Navy next week, February 23rd. Entering the nuclear field submarines, and that's where I'm going to be going. Now, into the project. So a little overview of the project to familiarize everyone. Last year, or a little over a year ago, I presented to the school committee my Eagle Scout project, which was based on textile recycling. It focused on sustainability, recycling, bringing in some money to the local public schools. It was a project that covered many fronts and helped take some load off of, we used to, and we still do, we're trying to increase the amount of textiles brought in, but to divert textiles from the incinerators, just getting burned pointlessly at the city's expense, to become recycled and actually make money for recycling these. Is $100 for rebate to the local schools for every 1 ton of textiles provided, and we'll get into the statistics of how the project's done so far financially and textile-wise, the amount that we've received. But the proposal was to get it into all the elementary schools, and that's what we achieved. There's a few other bins that went up as well, and we propose on adding more to that, mainly the middle schools. So that's where we are right now, phase 2. And this is just a recap of what we've done, how it's gone so far, and our plans for expansion, and that's where we're going. We'll be going over the savings, the impact, and our future estimates, and so on and so forth after that. So these are the boxes you can see on your sheets and on the televisions. This one's at the McAuliffe. These bins can store about 300 to 500 pounds of bagged textiles. We do prefer them bagged. Well, we want them bagged. And these are branded for the Lowell School. We have the reuse, recycle, the 3 R's. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Yes, that's it. Big initiative of the city of Lowell. Great program. And the number is on it, we have for the Department of Public Waste to take care of all the problems, so you guys don't have to worry about any of that. It's all taken care of. And so those are the boxes. There's currently 15 of them at Lowell schools. And so what those bins have accomplished so far, we've managed to bring in just below 200,000 pounds of textiles. It's about 100 tons. Which has dispersed $7,731 in rebates to the local schools. And we empty bins once a week, and so far this has been a great success. As you can see, all those textiles have been recycled instead of incinerated, and all this money has gone to the local schools, which is just wonderful. So we do plan on increasing that. You can see some of the top contributors, Lincoln being our number 1. They've done very well, edging out, the Moray by a good margin, and then the Riley coming in at number 3. So those have been some really good schools. The Lincoln actually now has 2 bins because they've been providing so many textiles. So we plan on adding these 10 locations to our current roster. These are mainly middle schools. These schools include the Bartlett, the Butler, the Cardinal, the Daly, the LeBlanc, the Pine, the Riverside, the Robinson, the Skolska, and the Wang. Skolska, yeah, thank you. So these are the schools we plan on adding textile bins to increase the amount that we'll be bringing in and the amount of locations and so forth. So this is the timeline. So currently, we're at the school committee, and this is the update of what's going on. But then our next step after school vacation, February 27th, we'll be contacting the schools, scheduling meetings with them, and giving them the information, having dialogue, getting places where we're going to be putting the bins, where all traffic flow works out fine, as it has so far, and just get it so the schools are on with the program. Then we'll be meeting with the individual school staff, and then by the first week of April, we'll have the first round of bins delivered, and all bins will be delivered and operational by the end of April vacation, which that's the plan, and should go through. So what we'll also be providing these schools, the same flyers, slight tailoring for the specific schools that we gave before, which informed the student body, the families of them about the recycling, the issues that it proposed, with the issues of burning the textiles rather than recycling them, and the issues that causes, as well as informing them of the program, so now as the children grow, they can have some place to put the textiles other than the trash cans, and then other textiles, and just informing the community in general. So flyers will be distributed to these locations, and they'll be given out to the families and the children as well. And then this includes the 13 schools plus the 13 ones now plus 10 new ones. So they'll all be getting flyers to reinform the new students about the program and getting more information out there to increase our success with the program. So some savings, earnings, and impacts. The average volume per bin is about 1,000 pounds per year, and adding 10 locations, that's about $550 per site. And then all maintenance of these bins is not to be worried about by the city. It's all taken care of by Bay State Textiles. They maintain, upkeep, make sure there's no dumping, all of those things. And as we've seen so far, the bins have been maintained beautifully, still in great condition, painted white, still white, except a little sand and snow from the recent storms, but otherwise all in good condition and have been working flawlessly. And that's pretty much it today. I, again, thank you for your time, being a little aware of yours. So this is our team. Kathleen Larson, she's the representative at Bay State Textiles. Gunther Wellenstein here with the city that I've been working with, been doing a great job, very helpful, and been really pushing through with this project, as well as myself. These are all our emails if you want to get in touch with any of us for more information. And I thank you very much all for your time.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. This is, that was a great presentation.
I thank you.
And this, I really like this project a lot because it's, it's a green project. But you also, I think one part you left out, if I recall, you used this project to become an Eagle Scout
Yes,
as well.
this was my Eagle Scout project, yes.
Yeah, so that's good. That's pretty efficient as well, that you're able to do, to use it to get your Eagle Scout status, but also to, it makes a big difference for the city.
Yes, and thank you very much also for attending my court of honor and presenting me with the...
Always happy to be there.
Thank you.
Ms. Doherty?
Thank you, Your Honor. Through you, just a couple of questions. First of all, it's a wonderful project, and I really appreciate your doing it for the city. For the new sites, have you looked at where you're going to put the bins? I mean, has that already been decided in terms of determining what new schools you are going to be including in the program?
The schools have already been decided. The specific locations, I'm not exactly sure.
No, we'll meet with Bay State Textiles, and we'll make sure that the custodian's okay with each site.
Yeah.
Because, some of our schools have limited areas. That's why I'm just wondering if some thought had been put into,
Yes,
what's the
yes.
available space at those schools. And then secondly, Does the money go back to the original school where it's collected?
Yeah, so the school, the Lincoln would have been the receiver of the most money. It's whichever school, you get the amount that your bin collects. So there's a little competition, you know, in that aspect of it. So the more your school produces, the more money that school actually gets.
Mr. Gendron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, congratulations,
Thank you.
Michael, on this great project. This is a great example of something where if you really want to get something done and you put your mind to it and you work hard enough, you can do it. So congratulations on that. Congratulations also on your Eagle Scout. I know that's a tremendous amount of work over a number of years. And thank you for your decision to serve our country in the Navy. Good luck to you on that. Is that boot camp you?
Yes, boot camp is first, and then I have about 2 years of schooling for my field, and then
Right. How you
I
feeling
finally
about
get to
boot
get
camp?
on the sub.
How you feeling about boot camp?
I'm excited. A little, you know, it's gonna be what it's gonna be.
I'm
so.
sure you can handle it. Good
Yes.
luck and make us proud. I had a question about have we had a lot of issues with people dumping, you know, the wrong type of materials in these boxes, like garbage and things we don't want there? Has that been an issue?
I don't believe it's been much of an issue. I believe we've gone through it.
For the most part, we haven't had TVs and mattresses, nothing outside. Sometimes folks are generous and they expand it from clothing and we get kids' toys and puzzles, but they do go on to secondhand, so no big issues.
Okay, great. Thanks again for your effort, and good luck next week.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gignan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just very quickly, I just want to thank you, Michael, for the work you've done for the city and more specifically for our schools, and congratulations, and thank you for volunteering to serve your country. And I think we're lucky to have you here in Lowell. You know, putting this project together is quite impressive. And on behalf of Mr. Frisch and the Finance Committee, thank you for raising some money for us, because we're always looking for extra money. So thank you, and good luck.
Thank you.
Mr. Hoey.
Just real quick, good luck and thank you in the Navy. Thank you for joining the Navy and be safe, okay?
I will do.
Come back home someday, all right?
Yes.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? If not, I think, Ms. Desmond, did you want to?
Thank you. I was just going to speak from the principal perspective. From the Morey School end, we were at the start of the distributions, and I will say that we were able to work with Bay State from the principal and custodial perspective of deciding exact location as to where we wanted our bin. We were provided with great flyers, which allowed us to get the word out to our families very easily. And what we found, the benefit of this program is the textiles can be soiled, they can be ripped, they can be torn, which most boxes do not accept. Most accept gently used products. So this was an alternative for families to dispose of things that the only option would be the trash. And then as from the building perspective, we received a check every month directly to the schools, and we were able to deposit it into our student activities account. And Bay State Textiles is very easy to work with. So if I noticed that my box was full before pickup, I could email Kathy Larson, and she would send a truck up. So we experienced absolutely no issues with this program. It's a wonderful program. So thank you for that.
Any further discussion? If not, thank you, Michael.
All right, thank you very much.
Good luck.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Chair will entertain a motion to accept the communication from Michael Wojcik and place it on file by Mr. Hoey, seconded by Mr. Gignan. Any further discussion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted. Returning to the regular agenda, we have the permission to enter. We have a motion to approve. Motion approved by Mr. Gignan, seconded by Mr. Hoey. Mr. Gignan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few questions and comments on the first item, the Aramark extension of a contract. I know we have representatives from Aramark here tonight, so I visited, at one of our previous meetings, I discussed some concerns regarding the food quality and presentation at some of our satellite schools that don't have functional kitchens. And I visited a school last week and was very displeased with what I saw. I saw what was, I remember the term, appeared to look like a lean cuisine, and it was the same type of container, but you really couldn't make out what the food was. And the school coordinator had informed me that that's a regular occurrence. And this was an alternative school that serves high school age students, and the portions were not okay for the high school students. She said what ends up happening is they won't eat that because it doesn't look appetizing, and then what they're doing is they're making their own meal because they happen to have a very small culinary program. And another thing that I wasn't pleased to learn is that the school coordinator is having to go through bins and dispose of rotten fruit. And once it goes to the school, I think it should be readily available for the children's consumption. And I know we had discussed that over the past few years there has been improvements in what's presented to those students. The only difference I've seen was that previously it was they were wrapped in aluminum foil, and now they're stored in a warmer. But it looks like the same product. And it by no means am I blaming the food service workers, because I also visited a school with a full kitchen, and the food service workers were telling me how displeased they were about the food that they're receiving and that they have to prepare for the students. So I understand that the Aramark has done a great job district-wide over the past few years and really turned around our operation of food service, and I appreciate that. But before I can support an additional year on your contract, I want to make sure that we're providing high-quality meals to every single student, regardless of if that school has a full kitchen and food service staff. I was not pleased with what I saw at that school, and the coordinator told me that the students just refused to eat it. And I would as well. I know I sent some photos to some of my colleagues and to the administration, but I'd just like to hear if there's any plan to rectify that before we take this vote.
Well, thank you all for having myself and Sharon Lagessa here, and I appreciate you bringing that stuff to our attention. We're always looking for feedback. So a couple of things. So we do serve the same product to all of our schools, so sometimes there can be some issues with transportation coming from one school to some of the satellite schools. So we are actually, Michael Cassidy and Sharon are actually visiting Worcester Public Schools to kind of getting some different ideas and some feedback next week to see if there's any improvements or if there's anything we can change, because we're constantly looking to make sure that we're servicing our kids as best we can. In regards to the portion size, we strictly follow the USDA regulations. So if a meal is accounted for 2 ounces of protein for that high school student meal, unfortunately there's no wiggle room around that. We strictly have to follow those regulations in order to meet reimbursement requirements. I know there was a question about possibly some rotten food. So when we do get food, sometimes it comes in a larger bulk. So if there's a piece of fruit that's necessarily like overripe, sometimes that does happen. We found that if there is extra food, we are promoting share tables at schools. So sometimes it could be a possibility of it being left out for a little bit of a longer period of time, and it might have been a little bit of over-ripened kind of in that spot. So we do work relatively closely with all of those schools. We're actually doing a survey that just ended, so we're constantly surveying our high school and middle school and some elementary kids to get feedback on some of the more popular meals and things. We always try to follow the food from the Rogers School where these meals are prepped to the satellite schools to kind of see what items hold better and then make changes towards the menu kind of as needed. Yes.
If I could, Mr. Mayor, thank you. So at this school I'm referring to serves high school students and middle school age students. And the meals that I saw were the same exact size. So is the portion the same for both grade levels?
Yes, there is a wiggle room between the 2 grade levels that kind of overlap, or we can serve the same portion size, yes.
Okay. And if you were a high school age student and you attended Lowell High School, you have a wide variety of options. I understand that it's more difficult to provide those options at these schools, but one option just doesn't seem fair. I mean, a number of these children don't have somebody at home that's going to come before us and complain about their food. And so when I saw that, I felt I needed to complain about it. And you know, if that was prepared in that manner and served at one of our other general population schools, there would be a line out the door. I would. There's no question about it. But my question is, why aren't there multiple options at these satellite schools? Why is it just one?
There actually are. There's always a cold sandwich, a cold salad, and then a hot entree every day. And then there's always 2 different types of vegetables and then 2 different types of fruit. And then we have 2 different flavors of milk offered as well. Some schools with the satellites, they order kind of ahead of time. So like the clerk of the school will let the manager at the Rogers know ahead of time. And then some schools, the variety is brought there and kids are being able to choose.
Okay. The school I went to had a hot meal and a salad, and that was it. There was not a sandwich option. And Mr. Hoey was with me, and he had asked the question about, is there a sandwich option? And there was nothing. So I just want to make sure that it doesn't matter what building you're in, that you're receiving a high-quality meal. And what some of the staff had told me is, for some of these students, this is the only hot meal that they receive, is through the school system. And if that meal I saw the other day is the only hot meal that they're receiving, then we're really doing a disservice. So I'd like to see some improvement in the quality, in the portions. I can see what you're saying, that you follow the guidelines, but I don't see how we can get reimbursed at the same rate for that meal as we are at the high school when you could see a big tray of food. This was a very small, like a lean cuisine sized portion, and I just didn't think it was fair to those kids. So I appreciate that you're going to be going out to Worcester and taking a look at that. I think that's a good thing to do. This school has a culinary arts program. They have equipment there. You know, I'd like to see us invest some of that food service money in bringing some equipment to those schools to provide some quality meals for those kids. But thank you for coming here tonight and answering my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gagnon. Mr. Hoey.
Thanks, Mayor. I was on the same trip to that school, to LeBlanc School, and let me start by saying I was really impressed with the school, the way it runs and the staff. But that meal that I seen there that day it's a satellite school, obviously, and they brought in some trays that have little plastic covers on it. I've dealt with it many times in my life at a correctional place, and those type of things can cause an issue. When you feed someone food that I seen that day, you might have someone even throw a tray in somebody's face. So with that type of school, that's a big concern of mine. When I see the high school, though, the food that you do have down there, it's incredible. They have they have a great options. I seen things down there that cost you $10 if you're at the Mullers, with grapes and cheese and everything. But that one particular school, even though they have, I think, a maximum of 50 children, things can happen. And I think he's not underestimating how bad it really was. It was not looking good. I've never seen one like that in 21 years in corrections. You wouldn't serve a meal like that in that place, and I don't think these kids should have got a meal like that day. With that said, getting back to Amarak, whatever way you pronounce it, a couple of meetings ago, we talked about a food truck here. If you read the Lowell Sun at that particular time, you would have thought that I brought up an idea to have a food truck go around the city of Lowell feeding children even in the summertime. And my motion was just to get something different for a child down at the high school that asked me to do it. She's a junior. Her name's Sammy. And Mr. Gignac came back, if you remember the story. He wanted to have a truck for the culinary kids. He actually said maybe they can drive around in the summer and sell ice cream cones to put the money into the Friends of Lowell High School. It came back that you guys wanted a truck. You want us to buy you a truck. And that rocked my world a little bit, to be honest with you. I thought you'd come back and say something different. We don't want the truck. It's a bad idea. It's hurting. It's competition. That would have been fine. But to me, you came back looking for about $40,000, $150,000 truck. I don't think we should be paying that truck. I think we have some things we should look at. I think when we negotiate contracts for the cooks and everything, I also believe that your people could probably do a little bit to help us in that field too. So I have some concerns, and hopefully we do some more homework and research on all this, and I'm having a hard time supporting this myself. So thank you.
Any further discussion? Ms. Doherty.
Thank you. I guess it's kind of a comment question. I'm wondering if there's a way that we could review this again, come back with some specific steps that have been taken to improve the quality of food at our satellite offerings, if that would be amenable to the group. And I'm not sure how we would know the results of that unless we just did a survey at the satellite sites, talk to the staff over at the schools and say, has the choices become better? Are the kids, obviously you look at how many students are choosing to take the lunch too, as one factor. But I think we all agree we want our kids to get nutritious and appealing food. And I think we all recognize the challenge with the off-site locations, but we're looking, the picture I saw, I wasn't there in person, but it wasn't acceptable to me. I wouldn't want to eat it, and I wouldn't want my child to eat it for lunch, and I don't think my child would. So I'm looking for improvement too, and just a plan for how we go forward. And I'm open to some suggestions you might have.
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to work as closely with Worcester as we can to kind of pick their brains around some improvements we can take, whether it's equipment, whether it's menu items, whether it's things that can be transported easily and look more presentable. By all means, of course, food safety is our #1 priority, making sure that things are held hot and getting to schools. And we will certainly work closer with those satellite schools to be able to get some feedback from students and staff to see maybe some recommendations for menu items. So great suggestion. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Could I just ask 3 questions, if there's nobody else? Why would it be, if you do have a cold sandwich substitute with every meal, for every hot meal, but there wasn't any cold sandwiches at that school on the day they visited, why would that have happened?
Sometimes either a student didn't order it, or if there was, I know we've had some snow days recently, if there was an issue with deliveries, but usually we always have that offer, both of those things, so.
But do you think there's sometimes when they just don't get loaded on the truck or whatever and they don't get delivered? The sandwiches I'm talking about.
Usually things are pretty orderly, pretty put together ahead of time, so I don't think it might have gotten lost in transition, but there could have been an issue with production that day, or maybe a student didn't happen to order it, but we usually don't have these things, so I apologize about that.
I can only imagine that it's a big operation, so what do you do for quality control? How do you keep track to make sure that the quality is up to par?
So we always temp the food kind of before it goes, making sure that it gets there within a short window. Right when it's delivered to the schools, it's put in either a warming unit so it can be held hot as hot as possible. And again, making sure that some of the servers that we do have at these schools, getting their feedback on this item didn't hold well, let's change this menu item. There has been a couple of items that we've totally removed that we've served at other middle schools and elementary schools that we've totally cut off. Some of these satellite schools, because they don't hold well, their presentation isn't up to par.
And my last question is, why are you going to Worcester? Why Worcester as opposed to Haverhill or? Yeah.
Let me have, Sharon's taking the field trip, so I'll give the mic over to her.
So thank you for taking the time to speak with us this evening. We're going to Worcester because they have satellite program there, very successful satellite program. So we've been in contact with them and having conversations. Mike Cassidy and myself are taking a field trip there to visit their main kitchen and their satellite schools, just so we can get some ideas and see if there's some better ways. I will say that we work super closely with all of the schools, including the satellites, and trying to customize that. And I'm hoping that that was a snippet in time, but that's not the general rule every single day. We're in the Rogers Kitchen constantly checking the menu, making sure that the product is going out. I know our staff takes immense pride in what they send out. But I do know that once it gets moved from, the tray into a container, into a truck, there's schools that we don't even have an elevator in, that my guys are bringing it up and downstairs. So I know we lose some of that, but I know that my staff takes great pride in what they do, including Christina and myself. I also will tell you that we just hired a chef manager, and one of the things that we will be focusing on is improving the culinary skills of our staff and also the presentation of our staff. So I'd say for the last few years, we've really focused on being operationally strong, being food safety strong, and now our goal is to move this forward and get more on presentation and expanding a lot of those areas. So Worcester is just one location that I have a connectivity. They're like size. They have like size problems, and so I'm looking just to kind of get some feedback.
Thank you. Ms. Doherty?
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to delay a vote on this extension and pending further feedback about quality improvements to our satellite sites.
Okay, so you just want to delay just that line item, not the whole permission to enter, right? Okay. So do we have a second to the motion? Seconded by Mr. Gendron. Discussion on the motion, Mr. Gignac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The social work of the LeBlanc School had asked if she could speak on this, if you don't mind. Okay.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lindsay Killalay. I've worked the last 6 years at the LeBlanc, so I just thought maybe I could share some firsthand insight because I am there on a regular basis in regards to the lunch. I do want to thank the school committee members for coming out and taking their time to see kind of some of our concerns, but I do want to address Aramac has made some great positive changes in the last couple of years. So although there are concerns on that, we do have larger high school students up to 18 years old, and the little portions they're getting, I do agree, can be difficult. I know that that's out of their hands, but I do agree with that concern, as well as a lot of times our kids are coming to school solely for the whole food purpose. This is a huge motivating factor for them to get their meals at school, so we want to make sure it's something that they are eating and it's not going wasted. So I do think in support that, if we could look through this a little bit closer for our students' benefit. We do have students that are coming from Lowell High back to our school setting, and so to have a lunch at Lowell High and see what is being offered and then come to our school setting, I think that's definitely troublesome at times of feeling like, why aren't we deserving of what the other options for other schools are? So I do hope we are in agreement. We can move forward to talk about this issue further and work together. I don't know if anyone had any specific questions in regards to the lunches or what we're seeing. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mott?
Thank you very much. With Ms. Doherty's motion, is there a plan then? If we're not gonna vote on this tonight and we're gonna postpone it, when are we postponing it to? What are we expecting the administration to provide us with? Just so we have a sense of what we're gonna do moving forward.
I don't have a specific answer for that. I'm open to suggestions. What do you think would be a fair time frame to, revisit this situation? A month? Longer than that?
Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do not think it's a great idea at all, because I think this is a snippet in time, number one. Number two, I do agree, because as you mentioned earlier, I think Christine was explaining, sometimes we don't know what happened that day. That day could be that the person coordinating, the clerk, had ordered all hot meals because it's such a small school. Maybe for simplicity, she said, I don't want to have any option, bring hot meals. What I would like to revisit, and I would address this also to the sitting social worker, Lindsay, who presented earlier, I'd like to see these concerns brought to us. I don't want to be hearing about them here at the school committee. I think everybody here has failed miserably for not bringing it up to us. I appreciate Mr. Gignac, he did bring it up to us, but I never heard anything from the administration of the school. So, Ms. Lindsay, I would appreciate that if you saw anything failing, you would have brought it up to your supervisor and tell us about it so we can address it with Aramark.
and say if we feel. I appreciate that the school committee members did a great job by alerting us, and we immediately contacted Aramark, but it was only, I think, last week, right, when we talked about it. So I feel that what we really need to do is maybe for us to revisit the way we work. I don't think they should be given a choice, the adults, the clerks, to decide on behalf of the student what they should read. I think we should offer them the choices list like we do in the high school. I think we should make that as a rule, that bring the choices and let the kids choose. Because the kid may morning you ask them, they may say, yeah, I'd like to have hot. When you actually bring the meal, they may decide, I'd rather go for the sandwich. So I think we should offer them the choices. I agree with you, Mr. Gignac, just like the high school has the choices. And and that's what I would like to see. And those are implementable. I don't need a plan for that. We're going to make sure they happen right away, starting tomorrow. They will happen because all they need is a directive from us to say, that's what I need. I need them to happen. So I appreciate your motion, but I don't think we really need to necessarily delay, because we will make sure that these happen. And had we known about them before Mr. Gignac alerted me, we would have taken care of them. So I will have I know that my deputy will be having a serious talk tomorrow with the school and figuring out why were we not alerted and why were these choices made that way on behalf of the students. So I would appreciate. I appreciate that we don't necessarily delay, the permission to enter, but let us do our job in making sure that this is not going to reoccur. Thank you.
Mr. Gendron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So first, I'd like to say that my interaction with Sharon and her staff and Aramark in the time I've been on the school committee has generally been very positive. I think that you get lots of good feedback. I see lots of good things at most of the schools, at the schools that I've visited when I visited them. However, I think the issue that Mr. Gignac brings up is worthy of discussion and investigation. And I guess I'd ask you, Mr. Superintendent, would it cause any great problem if we were to delay this till the next meeting and ask you to have your staff take a look at this issue, maybe identify causes, and just give us a general game plan for how we make sure this doesn't happen in the future?
I'll let in a second my, Mr. Frisch respond to whether this is going to disturb his financial flows and activity. Yeah. But we can, obviously, it's a very reasonable request.
If there's a bill that needs to be paid tomorrow, I don't upset the apple cart.
Mr. Frisch will let us know. No, I think to me it's a very simple problem. It's a problem of communication more than anything else. Because I'd like to know why in the world would a clerk have the authority to decide on behalf of the students what to order for all the students? Why aren't the students afforded the same choices as the high school? They're the same age group. They should be afforded the same choices to the extent that it is possible. Maybe not all the choices, but the maximum number of choices. And I think it's more an issue of sitting down with the satellite schools and explaining to them what is available to them and why there's a strong need, as was explained earlier, that for so many of these children, that meal may be the only one they have in the day. Why it is so important that is taken very seriously. And I remember doing that more than a year ago. And I was the one who had asked, when I saw the initial boxes, I had asked, please get rid of these boxes. They used to be aluminum boxes. I said, this is ridiculous. They deserve better. And they have done a lot of improvements. But I want to see why aren't we doing it the way we're supposed to do it? I think I'm looking at it more like, how do we improve? I would like to find out why aren't we doing what we're doing in the other schools? Mm-hmm. That's what I would like to look at it. I look at it more that it is a failure of the system, that I want to know, why did we fail? And we need to fix it. And I do agree with you. Yeah, we will let you know. I'll be more than happy to report to you the reasons why it failed and what steps were taken to fix it.
So, Mr. Frisch, is that?
Yes, I think that would be fine to come, if it's all right with the school committee and the superintendent, to come back at the next school committee meeting with a list of improvements, suggested improvements, and back, we'll put this item back on the permission to enter, and I think that would be fine.
Okay. Given that, I'd be supportive of the motion.
Mr. Doherty?
Thank you. I just want to make the point, it's not just about choices, it's the quality. I mean, and I didn't taste it, but it did not look at all appealing. So it's a quality of food issue. It's not just about choices. And I agree, it would have been better to have been brought to the administration's attention earlier, but it is at our attention now, and I just feel like it behooves us to take the time to rectify it.
Any further discussion on the motion? Yes.
Okay, there we go.
Ms. Omoyeni, go ahead.
If I may, Mr. Superintendent, I would like to just speak in favor of Ms. Doherty's motion. I think that to postpone or to delay the vote for further investigation, it's not a punitive process. I think if anything, it's, as Mr. Gendron was saying, it's an investigative process that would most definitely result in the school committee having the information it needs to make an informed decision. I know that the two women who spoke said that Aramark has works tirelessly to ensure that they're constantly getting feedback and that they're constantly making improvements. So I think that it would be beneficial for the school committee to see the evidence of those and to see what improvements have been made and what efforts have been made to constantly be improving and ensuring that all students have a nutritious lunch, a lunch that will sustain them for the rest of the day, because as the point has been made several times, here for many students this is the only meal they make, and regardless of whether or not they're attending regardless of what school they're attending, they deserve to have a lunch that is nutritious. And so I just wanted to speak in favor of that. I don't think it is something that's punitive. I personally definitely, attending the high school, appreciate the challenge of feeding so many students and the transport that is available, but I think that to have more information would result in a better decision for the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, so the motion is to delay action on the Aramark Educational Services line item for 1 month, or until the superintendent places it back on the agenda with a report on the, is that the spirit of the motion? Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor? All opposed? Oh, we need a roll call, I think. Roll call on this.
Ms. Martin? Yes. Mr. Dakota? Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Gendron?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
All right, next we have the, also included in permission to enter is the amount of $9,000, a line item for $9,000 for Community Teamwork Incorporated. Do we have a motion to approve? Motion approved by Ms. Doherty, seconded by Mr. Gendron. Discussion, roll call.
Ms. Martin? Mr. Dakota? Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Gendron?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
5 yeas, 2 absent, approved.
And the chair would entertain a motion to approve the remaining items, line items on the permission to enter by Mr. Gignac, seconded by Mr. Hoey. Discussion, roll call.
Ms. Martin? Yes. Mr. Dakota? Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Gendron?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Next, we have memorials. We have 2 memorials this evening. The first one is for Thomas Fleming, retired Moody School custodian and brother of Sharon Smith, payroll clerk, and Rudy Greenhouse School custodian, Catherine Fleming, Bartlett School custodian, uncle of Lynn Moran, special education department clerk, and a memorial for John Paul Oates, father of Suzanne Keefe, Lowell High School English department chair, and father-in-law of Ma Keefe, Lowell High School teacher. Next, under motions, we have three motions. The first motion is, Ms. Doherty.
Excuse me, there was a typo in that motion, and I would prefer that it read last 3 years,
Okay.
not last year.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the motion is request the city manager provide the school committee with a report that details the city's maintenance of effort agreement for the last 3 years related to the expenditures of the schools. Seconded by Mr. Gendron. Ms. Doherty.
Thank you, Ron. I think the motion pretty much speaks for itself. Our maintenance of effort agreement currently runs about $43 million out of our $180 million budget, so it does represent a chunk of funding. So I just wanted to, in a spirit of collaboration, look at these numbers and see what trends over the last 3 years, and if there's a way we can be more efficient in getting these services provided for our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Mr. Hoey.
Thanks, Mayor. Ironically, I watched one of my favorite shows on TV today, City Life, and Miss Doherty and the city manager happened to be on it. And when she read her motion, the things I picked up on that kind of disturbed me a little bit, but one was you better be careful. You might open up a Pandora's box with this motion. I also heard him say, the city manager I'm talking about, I heard him say that the person that's involved in writing up the agreement on maintenance of effort, the one who drafted it, he said was Jay Lang. So he wasn't too happy about her motion. I'm going to support this motion. I think it's a great motion, by the way. And I feel the facility joint subcommittees, and with the help of my colleague, Ms. Doherty, we're going to get to something that needs to be taken care of. And it should have been taken care of about 25 years ago. It's nobody's fault here right now, nobody in the city. I think this motion's positive. I think when it's all said and done, Pandora's box or not, they want this superintendent and Mr. Frisch to be transparent with everything, and that's what I think her motion's going to bring out, and I think it's a great motion. So with that said, thank you for the time.
Any further discussion on the motion? If I could just add, I think it's worthwhile for the school department to be sitting down with the city administration just to go over the maintenance of effort, to see if there are any places where there are disagreements, or maybe there's been items that are overlooked one way or the other, and just so that I think that if both the school department administration, the school administration, and the city administration did that and spent a couple of hours, that it could only benefit everybody, and that everybody would be, at least be of the same mind regarding maintenance of effort. So I think it's a good motion and worth doing, but I also think, and I've been on that show before, and it's lighthearted at times, and so you have to take it with a grain of salt, I think. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, all opposed, so voted. The next motion by Ms. Doherty is requested the superintendent provide the committee with a report of the transportation cost estimates of busing students to a high school at Collie over the next 12 years based on the number of students by neighborhood currently attending our schools. Seconded by Mr. Gendron. Ms. Doherty.
Thank you, Your Honor. So my thinking with this is, as we are moving forward, gathering more information about the potential options we have with the high school, this is information we absolutely should have, and I don't think it would be that difficult. The motion that comes next actually was meant to go before it. They work together, but to really start to look at, when we're talking about costs of the different locations, we need to factor in these peripheral costs, which would be a high school out at Collie. What numbers of students would we be trying to transport out there? Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, all opposed, so voted. The next motion by Ms. Doherty is requested the superintendent provide the committee with a report that looks at our K-12 student population by zip code to determine the number of students from each neighborhood. Seconded by Mr. Gignac. Ms. Doherty.
Again, that speaks for itself. Really looking at where our students are coming from in the city. And my understanding is it's a very basic data collection move, that we have everyone's address by zip code. We could easily see how many of our students are in each of our neighborhoods and extrapolate the other information from that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gignac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On this topic, I had a motion of a while back regarding the possibility of rezoning the school district. I'm just curious as to where that motion stands, that motion response.
Mr. Superintendent?
Thank you. Actually, today, I had a meeting with John Dakota from the Family Resource Center regarding that exact motion. And one of the things that he has a draft plan put together, but there is a big factor of the Rogers STEM Academy and that middle school piece, because we really need to know that location to be able to determine the routes in the neighborhoods and determine whether citywide schools would be necessary any longer or just clearly stick straight to the neighborhood. But he does have a draft prepared, but without that piece. And also we discussed the factor, this actual motion that you brought forward around the transportation, and discussing that if in fact a decision was made for the high school to be placed in a different location such as Collie, that there may be some considerations that we have to think about as far as busing and routing students, and thinking about time that we start school so that we could have additional routes set up for that. So that is still in the discussion phase. And we talked about in the next month or so, maybe just bringing some updates to you relative to our discussions. And Mr. Dakota is working on, actually met with the LRTA today and has done some of the work on the neighborhood zoning and the zip codes and how many students we have in those locations thus far.
Mr. Gendron.
Since we're talking about the neighborhood zoning, I had a question relative to that, Mrs. Durkin. The neighborhood zoning, are there financial, concerns about moving from a citywide busing scenario to a neighborhood busing scenario? At one point in time, I think there was state money that was tied to, driving communities like Lowell to a citywide busing scenario. Do you know anything about that?
I don't have that information for you, but I certainly can share that as part of the update. The one major factor that we're looking at relative to the neighborhood schools is ensuring that our desegregation plan that we have is not, that it's vacated, it's either vacated or we can maintain that deseg plan within the neighborhood zoning that we provide.
Okay, so that's kind of what I'm getting at. I thought the money was related to that plan, and I didn't know if you could have one without the other. It seemed to me that the citywide busing was necessary in order to maintain that plan, and that there was some funding associated with that, but maybe I'm wrong.
So at the time that the plan was created, it's my understanding that the DSEG plan, that there was a set parameter that we had to follow, and that's why we delineated the citywide schools, so that we could ensure that there was, adequacy and every child was afforded the same offerings.
Yeah.
So, but that being said, when we've started to look at the rezoning now, that we may be able to do something within our neighborhoods and still be able to maintain the fidelity of the DSEG plan. Either that or request to vacate it.
Okay. If you could include some information about that funding and the ramifications of it in your update, that would be terrific.
I will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further, Ms. Mott?
Thank you very much. I know we've kind of come by this by a fairly simple motion, and now we're having some great big conversations. I would say, as we're talking about, changing our district, the zoning and whatnot, I would just like to say that if we're actually going to have a conversation about vacating a desegregation order, that is something that is a profoundly substantive conversation that needs to happen. And I will say quite honestly, I would be absolutely opposed to it. If this can't be achieved, and be able to maintain a desegregated school system, then quite honestly, I don't believe we can morally do that. So I think as you're looking at this, I appreciate that. It's a conversation I know that's been going on in ways that we can save money and move towards the neighborhood school concept. I understand the charms of all that, absolutely. None of those would negate the absolute primacy of running a school district where every member, every child has an opportunity to go to a desegregated school. And that this is not something that so much for my microphone. I was really working up a head of steam here, but that's all right. It is simply, that's simply not something that I would consider as a school committee member. I have great confidence that this body wouldn't. Moving backwards in time like that simply can't be an option. So as you're looking at it, the idea that we can implement a new structure that still respects the DSEG order is something that I think we would all be very interested to see. Any action that would go towards vacating that order, I would certainly be very opposed to, and I think is something that would, obviously be a critically negative move that we would make. Thank you. I'll just turn off my microphone now, so no one has to worry.
You can probably share the other microphone together. Any further discussion, Mr. General? No? Okay, any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, all opposed, so voted. Next, we go to reports of the superintendent. The first report is the Catherine P. Starclosa Knowledge Bowl competition. Any discussion on that item from the superintendent?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to give you some information on the dates and so forth. It's a very successful initiative, and I know our friends from Central Mass have reached out to us to copy us, and they're starting their own now, a bunch of districts, and the ultimate goal is we'll have our champion compete with their champion eventually, and so things are going well. I'm going to let Deputy Durkin give us some information on the details or anything else, or any questions you might have on dates or something.
Sure, these, with the thanks to the generous support of the school committee, we're able to offer this again this year. And we're pleased to say that our Rogers, our newest little fifth graders, will be participating this year as well and joining all of the other middle school teams. And the dates are for the preliminary matches, elimination, and final competition are there for your review. And if you haven't signed up yet, we still have spaces available for our judges. And it's always a wonderful event. And I want to thank Carolyn Rochelot and her team and all of the building coaches for their efforts in making this so.
Any discussion on that, Mr. Hoey?
Thanks, Mayor. I only have one thing to say about this. I know the lady that this is named after sat right where I am, Ms. Starclosa. I was on the school committee with her. She'd be so proud of this. It's unbelievable. One concern I have is when the moderator, Jim Neary, now that he has a new job at the Greenouch, is he going to be able to continue to do this? I don't think so, right?
Well,
his job? I'm not sure if he's going to.
He promised us he will for this
Okay,
year.
I know he's going to do it this year, but I'm not sure about next year. So that's the only concern I have, because he was really good at it. He's good at that job, and hopefully if someone has to replace him, we have someone that's really good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this item? If not, we'll move on to the next item, which is the 2017 graduation dates and the Lowell High's commencement speaker. Any discussion? If not, Ms. Doherty.
I was just going to say motion to put on record, or I forget what you say.
Accept the report.
Well, I think what I'm trying to do is go through all the reports and then do one motion to accept them.
Perfect.
All right, we'll move on to the next item, which is a response to Robert Gignak's motion of January 18th, 2017. regarding extracurricular activities throughout the district. Any discussion? Mr. Gignac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hate to ask you for more information, but if you could include how many students participate, that would be very helpful. I don't need it soon, but I think that's important to see. I was surprised to see some of these groups on here. It's great that we offer so many extracurricular activities, but I'd just be curious to see how many students participate.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on that item? If not, we'll move on to the next item, which is a response to Ms. Doherty's motion of January 18, 2017 regarding the time allocated for recess, lunch, physical education, and health. And we have a registered speaker. Do you want to speak first? No. Okay.
Hello, my name is Darcy Blair, and I am a parent of a student here in Lowell, and I lost him. He was going to present with me. He usually doesn't fall asleep this early, so thank you all. Oh, no, just kidding. But anyway, so I am here, number one, I'm a member of the Citywide Parent Council and also the newly formed Lowell Education Justice Alliance. I would like to thank Ms. Doherty for coming to our January meeting of the CPC and then bringing this motion forward. And thank you, Superintendent and the office, for putting together this report. It's very helpful, enlightening, and very sad to see this presented in this way. And it confirms, though, what parents know, that there's disparity across the schools. There's a wide range of recess times, lunch times. Gym is offered in various ways. And so we haven't really had time to digest this. We will be working on this at our next Citywide Parent Council meeting. I understand that where we've gotten with this has to do a lot with No Child Left Behind and all of those federal mandates, but I think that they are counterproductive. High-stakes testing has driven a lot of this, and I think that we need recess. Students need to be able to eat, to be able to think. If our ultimate goal is high test scores, which I don't think is true, I would push back on that. But for the sake of argument, if we're going to say that that's what we're looking for, students need to have time to eat, to get nutrients, to be able to think. Students need to have time to run around, to let their minds go, to have free play. Those are all so important to learning and to a holistic learning environment. And I'm afraid that what has happened in the districts that lose the most recess are urban, high minority, low income communities. That has been shown. And I think that's wrong. I think we're creating a separate, unequal system, and we need to push back on that. I think that recess is important, as well as social studies and history and all those other things that we're also losing, but that's for another conversation. For now, we will be looking at the next Citywide Parent Council meeting, how we can come up with a recess and lunch policy that works for all of our students, that works for the teachers. Can you imagine the discipline issues that might go away if kids got to run around a little bit, to get away from the classroom a little bit? So we look forward to working with the school committee and with the school administration to come up with some policy recommendations. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Doherty.
Thank you, and I would also like to start by thanking the administration for going through this exercise of providing all this information. A couple of things that jumped right out at me. Elementary schools with 10 minutes for recess. Elementary schools with 15 minutes for lunch. I mean, that doesn't include transportation, like walking the students down there. And I think there's a lot of information here, and I think that I would like to refer it to the curriculum. If my colleague, I believe Ms. Martin is the chair of the curriculum, Joint Curriculum and Student Services Subcommittee, because I think we need to dig deeper, not only in terms of the issue with recess and lunch, but also physical education, health education, really looking across the K-8 spectrum and see if we can pull back. And I agree, a lot of it is really a reaction to No Child Left Behind and that heavy emphasis on standardized testing. But as we all know, we now have a different national law, ESSA, Every Child Succeeds Act, where there's still the standardized testing, but there's also a recognition that social and emotional development, that educating the whole child, that these other factors are also important. So I think it gives us an opportunity, and in relation to the superintendent's vision and strategic plan for the district, to start looking at where we can put back some time for these other aspects that really speak to the whole child. I think that we'd see a lot of benefits with that. So I would respectfully request that this report go to the joint subcommittee on curriculum and student services. And if we could try to have a meeting, I know next week is vacation, the following week, begins February 27th, if we could try to meet that week, we might be able to have information for our March meeting to actually, or maybe by the middle of March, to have further discussion on this. Thank you.
That's a joint subcommittee? How many that's just to put the two subcommittees together?
Yeah.
All right. So
Because I think it overlaps student services and curriculum.
okay.
And I'm student services, and Ms. Martin is curriculum.
Okay. All right, so there's a motion by Ms. Doherty to refer this matter to the joint subcommittee for student services and for curriculum. Second by Ms. Martin. Discussion on the motion. Ms. Martin.
Could I ask, anticipating this, that the motion will pass, some additional information that I think might be helpful? I will say that that's a point I've never heard before, that urban districts are tighter with their time in recess and lunch as opposed to more suburban districts. I'd love to get some information on that, any studies that may have been done, because I honestly thought this was a problem everyone had. I didn't realize it would be more focused in, of course, I've always been in an urban district, so. But if we could get some additional information from that, either from, DESE, or if there are other kind of national citations you might be able to provide us with, I think it'd be helpful information for us to have, because that's new information that I've never heard before.
Okay. Ms. Boyer, is that something that you can do?
There's a report that I got.
If you, even to the superintendents, we could all get it, that would be great. Thank you very much.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor of the motion, all opposed, so voted. The next is the monthly budget report. Is there any discussion on the monthly budget report? Hearing none, we'll move on to the school committee meeting dates. Any discussion?
Mayor, just one question. I'm not sure, but the date on the graduation might be falling on the same day as a school committee meeting. Is that true?
It was.
I did, yeah.
Hang on a second.
I got a call on that today. Does? Okay.
Sorry, I'm very glad, Mr. Hoey, you brought that up. That was actually something that we realized when we were going through the calendar. So I don't know if I could make a suggestion that to one of the council members to possibly postpone. Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
Move what?
As I think you know, Mr. Mayor, we usually will cancel that meeting when we get there. So don't be silly.
So is that okay? So any more discussion on that?
Nope.
Then, okay. And on the monthly budget report, no discussion? All right, so those items are items that don't require a roll call vote. So do we have a motion to approve all the superintendent's reports, 7.1 through 7.5? By Mr. Hoey, second by Mr. Gignac. Discussion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. Next is the 2017-2018 school committee meeting dates. And we need a motion to approve with a roll call vote. Motion to approve by Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Hoey. Discussion, roll call.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Dakota? Ms. Doherty? Mr. Gendron?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Next is the 2017-2018 school year calendar. The superintendent suggested that we give this a first and second reading, so we would consider this the first reading, and everybody can look over the calendar until the next meeting, and then we would take a vote to approve at the next meeting if there's no objection. That's the way we'll proceed?
Sure.
Okay, so we'll just call that the first reading. And then, all right, so then we have the personnel report. Any discussion on the personnel report? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to accept and file a personnel report by Ms. Doherty, seconded by Mr. Gendron. Discussion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. Moving on to new business, we have the approval of an educational research request. We have a motion to approve the request by Ms. Doherty, second by Mr. Hoey. Discussion, roll call.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Dakota? Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Gendron?
Yes.
Mr. Gignac?
Yes.
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
And that concludes the agenda for this evening. Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn by Mr. Hoey, second by Mr. Gendron. All in favor, all opposed? Stand adjourned.
Okay.
Good job.
Thank you.
I love that game, but you know what? I was watching with my friends, right? It's the third quarter. Maybe we should just go home. I watched it.
Never joked about that with your kid. If I get that.
At some place, 5-5, they'll give you your money back.
One of the things that I'm
But I didn't, the photo 5-5, but there was
sure too.
bar and Chinese food, so it's a good time. You know, I'm with there with like 3 or 4 guys that I hang out with, so we had a good time. But the third quarter, you know, one of them was like, nah, maybe we should just go home now. You know, cry by myself. No, we stayed right till the end. But it just was the greatest game I've ever seen.
How do you go home and go to sleep after that game, right? I mean, it was.
You know what I did? I went home. I turned ESPN. I was up till 3 o'clock in the morning watching. You know how you watch CNN for like the Trump stuff? So I was doing the same thing for that.
It was
That's
so
exactly what I did.
Yeah.
Maybe the presentation.
So exciting.
Consider that not very presented. Okay, with that, I would have,
How you doing?
the cooker would throw some.
How'd you do over there today? Judging?
Throw in whatever kind of colors. This is not good presentation.
Yeah.
No,
Did you see the kid that was,
so that's what.
the
I'm
kid that
saying.
was using the plants?
Tell me, what is it?
And that was just phenomenal. For the kid's what, in 5th grade or something like that? It's amazing.
The fact they only have this as hot. I want to know when the clerk places the order. I want to ask the clerk. Everybody ordered hot. Did you give them the hot?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll talk to her tomorrow.
Yeah. 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 And you know what I like too is there were a lot of them.